If there's one thing that I would recommend to new players that are trying to learn this game, I think it's that burnout is okay. I think we can all watch YouTube videos and everyone will be like, I don't want to burn out. Burnout is very punishing. It sucks, blah, blah, blah. And to play at highest level, you never burn out, right? And the issue with that advice is that people take it and then they just choose not to burn out and they deliberately don't explore all of their options. You cannot play close to the line if you never cross it, essentially. And so if you don't know what all your options are and you are afraid to explore them and burn out, then your knowledge of the character and your ability to do that freestyling that we were talking about earlier, it's going to be lacking. And your knowledge, and you're going to cross your wires a lot more because you just haven't done it as much because you didn't burn out. Welcome to the Absolute Guard podcast. Oops, hang on, I forgot to unmute Benny.
Yes, welcome. This is episode 43. My name is Benny, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host John, who, just like me, is thoroughly engrossed in the launch of Street Fighter 6. How's it going, John?
I don't know what you're talking about. That game sucks. Yeah, it's going great. I have been admittedly pretty low on sleep over the past few weeks, I guess. Like ever since the open beta, honestly, I've just been so drained as far as like getting my fill of this game. Yeah. So I promised myself at launch that I would not go as hard on the open beta, go as hard on the launch as I did on the open beta, because one had a time limit and the other one doesn't. We can play this game however long we want now. But I still got sucked into it for sure. So I figured we don't have a guest today. It's just us. And I think that it's important that it's just us because we have so much to talk about as far as like our initial impressions of the game, both the engine, and the package and everything, now that we've actually had our hands on it and we can review it in a way that is objective as opposed to a pre-release copy or anything like that. So and in the background on the video feed here, we actually have footage from your stream, Benny, of you running through the trials. And I was curious about, like, was this your first time with the like first launch of the game? Is this immediately where you went?
Yeah, that's exactly what that was my plan from the start, was to just jump into the trials. I wanted to see between the two characters I was going to play, Honda and Dhalsim, just kind of what developers had in mind in terms of their moveset and how they wanted combos to work in that sense. I jumped in and I was also using the hitbox, the snack box, to do these trials initially. Mm-hmm. And for the most part I was doing okay. I'd probably say I did about 90% of them just fine using that. Then there was a couple things where my hands just wouldn't comprehend or just do what I wanted. So I ended up just plugging in my stick, and I was like, you know what, is the problem the controller in my hands, or is the problem like the combo timing or something? And I picked up a stick, and within 2 tries it was like, okay, I did this. So it's like, that's not the problem.
I get you. So you think the hitbox was holding you back then?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I've been playing with, as I mentioned before, playing Street Fighter 4, in the meantime before this came out, something that I was gonna try. But the more I did trials in this game, and just some of the inputs that I needed to do, whether it was like charging a headbutt and then doing like a double quarter circle back for super, those are kind of things I just feel I don't have the time to learn on hitbox and get myself accustomed to that at the same time as I'm trying to learn the game.
No, that's a tough one, right? Because Street Fighter 6 is so similar to other Street Fighters, but also very different at the same time. It's similar enough just to confuse you and convince you that you're playing Street Fighter 4 Honda or, you know, a Street Fighter 5 Honda or something.
Yeah.
But not like I learned Guilty Gear Strive on Hitbox, and that was pretty straightforward for me because I didn't really have a ton of Guilty Gear prior experience, and I didn't have something to unlearn. And I think that's something that I think is compounding on your end, where you are both unlearning Stick to play Hitbox and unlearning Street Fighter 4 Honda to play Street Fighter 6 Honda, and that's a lot of mental load.
Yeah, it is like like, you know, muscle memory is a huge thing in terms of like how you play, and you know the changes made to Honda in terms of him having 100 hands being a motion now,
Yeah.
and you know, having I mean that just changes the dynamic really big for me because I was used to, you know, just holding down back and okay, do I want hands to come out? Yeah, let me mash a couple buttons and I'm still holding my charge. Whereas
Yep.
now it's like, let me hit this button, then I got to do fireball motion, then do I hold charge now or am I doing something else? And you know, again, that's huge mental kind of overload. It's been a tough problem for me to kind of overcome to start, and it's been a little frustrating to be honest. So.
Yeah, you know, again, that's not the first time I've heard that. I mentioned it on our previous episode. I think it was like 2 episodes ago, but like, you know, someone that I know and respect pretty well in the fighting game community, like is familiar with old games, but the new game is very not intuitive, and the neutral is different. And so they're finding that it's kind of hard, I believe. And so, you know, the question is still kind of up in the air about whether or not this game is too hard. But I think that hopefully that'll change with time. The primary concern I've been hearing from people that have been like trying the game out of the gates here, as far as difficulty is concerned, is that drive rushes are really hard. Like drive rush from crouching, specifically, or even on the combo that you've currently got going on right here, you have a low strong drive rush after a down input, and like when was the last game you had to do a motion like that? I don't think even probably an anime game would have something like that. But I hear that regularly. I'm like, oh, I would have won if I was playing on Hitbox, and I find that there is a degree of like investment that you have to put into the Hitbox in advance in terms of months. Like I think it took me like 8 months before I was really competent with it, or I felt like I was competent with it.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, it's not necessarily like I can't find the time to do it. It's more of like how much time do I want to put into learning that at the same time? Because I talked to Saber about that, and his thing has just been like, well, this is what, you know, this is what you're used to, this is what you know, like, and I'm not planning to play personally super competitively. Like I don't have plans to travel out of state or anything like that. Maybe Evo if I can sneak a day in or whatever, but other than that, like, you know, I'm gonna be online, a local if that's still a thing. But for the most part, you know, I'm just kind of casually playing at home. So it's just like, do I want to kind of exasperate my frustration learning hitbox at the same time while trying to learn characters? Because like I'm determined to play Honda and Sim in this game, and that's different because when Honda came out in 5, I didn't want to play him, or I played him. I tried him at first, and then I kind of just told myself like the muscle memory was too much to kind of overcome, and I just didn't want to bother at that point because I wasn't playing the game a lot anyway. But with this game at the launch, I was just like, I'm going to play these guys, and both of them, or at least Honda seems really good, kind of degenerate in his ways, but you know that's Honda in a nutshell for a lot of people. They hate his move set and they hate, you know, his frame data on block and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm just determined to kind of make it work. So I'm basically just sacrificing the hitbox for my overall, you know, enjoyment and learning.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like if your goalpost is enjoying the game, then why would you include something that doesn't help you enjoy the game?
Yeah,
you know, you could argue that Hitbox has a competitive advantage and that you're going to be stronger in the long run by playing on it. Yeah. But if you're not enjoying that or enjoying the journey to get to that point, And even then, once you get to that point, you're just winning more. Is that necessarily the fun that you're looking for, or the enjoyment that you're looking for?
Yeah.
Is Yeah, I feel you. My motivation was actually a lot different in that, for me, it was initially a competitive advantage thing. Like I hopped on it when the Daigo thing happened, and Daigo picked up a hitbox, or he picked up a Gafro box to get it banned, basically, and then he actually picked up a hitbox because Gafro box is extra unfair. And then 2 years later, we're still having these same goddamn debates. But I think. But then as I started playing on it, I realized that a lot of my neck pain was not as prevalent, and so it's just like, this is the thing that I do now as I play on the hitbox. Like it's I gotta tough it out, and frankly, it is an objective advantage. Like drive rushes are so much easier on a hitbox than on a stick.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, same thing. Like I found that down down input for Honda's clap move to be 100 times easier on a hitbox, but then
Hell
it's
yeah.
like it's the transition from that into, like you said, the quarter circles or a super or something like that, where I'm just like, okay, I can do this part just fine, but the second part of this combo is almost impossible. Like my hands are just like, nah, this we're not doing this.
Yep. To
But
kind of paint a picture for our audience here, there is a trial that Benny will eventually get to in our video feed, I think, where it's down, down, medium kick, and you cancel that into a hands, I believe, which is a quarter circle back motion, and then you link in off of that into a charge move, like I think it's a butt slam. So like you do like low strong into butt slam or something, and so you're doing down, down, quarter circle back, down, back charge, up, forward kick. And a link in there too. And I'm like, that is not what I expect. When I don't think of combo master, when I think of Honda, I think of headbutt, singular headbutt.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of just been how my my games have been going right now. I kind of told myself from the beginning that I was going to limit how much I was trying to implement into my game. And initially, I didn't take to that advice. I kind of jumped online, and after doing the trials and knowing what could combo, I was trying to do stuff like that, and nothing was working. Like my muscle memory isn't anywhere close to doing a lot of this stuff yet. So I ended up resorting back to, oh, let me just basic anti-air somebody if he comes in, or let me do a real simple combo instead of something more elaborate that I know works. It's just I'm not able to do it just yet, like on command. So I'm not ready to kind of put that into my game just yet.
Yeah, I mean, the logical conclusion to that journey is just headbutt from full screen. And B-4, dude.
Yeah, it was good because like I barely jumped into rank until actually yesterday, and then I hadn't played any casuals or anything with anybody. I was kind of just in my own world, just doing trials and training mode, and then I decided to jump in and play against our friend Old Man River there, Jeff. And I got pretty much overrun. I don't know. I think overall out of like 50 games, I won 5 between Honda and Dalsum. And there was so many situations where I was just like, here, I just drive rushed him into the wall when he's in burnout. I get a free combo, and what did I do? I delivered like a single hit, and I was like, what? I was just like, I was so frustrated in terms of just not being able to do what I had seen and what I had been practicing. And I'm just like, okay, I think I'm overwhelming myself with all this information and the combo routes and all this stuff.
Because again, like it's not just all that new information, which is a lot. Like we just got talked about. Like even on the screen right now, this is a down down into down charge, ground bounce, it back into another down down and a quarter circle back charge super. Like what kind of combo is this? Like so you have all that in your head, and you could tell me Street Fighter 4 Honda's combos off the back of your hand, right? Or like you could tell me off the top of your head. So you have all that in your brain too, and so you're like busy pushing that aside while you're doing the combo to actually do the Street Fighter 6 combo. It's heavy stuff, man. One of the benefits that I had with learning Chun is that I took some time to learn Chun in different games. I learned during Cross Tekken, I learned during Alpha 2, and I learned during Third Strike. Third Strike, I didn't really have a ton of success with it because I think low forward super is really hard on hitbox, but
Yeah.
But because of that, I was able to like break out of the Street Fighter 5 Chun mold a little bit more. I won't touch 4 Chun, by the way. I'm not a match guy. But in Cross, like it's a motion just like everything else.
Yeah.
but like I was doing like CACD stuff and cross Tekken and doing like boost chain combos, and which is very similar to drive rush combos in this game. And the game plan is pretty similar, so I can draw on multiple things, and therefore I don't have to unlearn things. And even when I was learning cross, I had to unlearn Street Fighter V Chun as well, so I kind of took my licks there, I think.
Yeah, I can see that. In terms of like the launch itself, in terms of launch of the game, I mentioned like I had gone into the trials first. Like, what was the first thing you did, or what were you looking at first?
You know what? I asked you that question, and I don't actually remember my answer to that question. I don't
Well,
actually know what I did. It was really. Oh, I remember. Yeah. So it was Thursday, I think, when the game launched. It was like 9 p.m. Right.
yeah,
And
well,
I
actually a little
think
earlier if you had a VPN.
yeah, if you had a VPN, it was a little bit earlier. I think that yeah, by and large, I was just labbing the new characters and doing the trials for the new characters at the start.
Okay.
And I actually didn't really care for any of the new characters. I ran with Lily first. I found that she was too slow for me. I didn't like her.
Okay.
And then I tried Honda. I didn't like him. Mainly because I tried some of these combos and I was like, this is bullshit. Like the trial combos. I was like, this is bullshit. I don't want to do this. And then I tried Cammy because I was like, you know what? There's a launch tournament in a couple days, or not a couple days. It was the following day. It was on Friday.
Yeah.
And there was a no beta bracket in that tournament. So no matter what, I had to play one of the new characters. And I'm like, I'm just going to go easy mode and play Cammy really quickly. And that worked out. I do like Cammy as a character. It's just that she overlaps so much with Chun, and I'm like, I should just play Chun.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
was, if anything, I was like sleep deprived and also a little like not feeling the characters and a little angsty about it. I was like, man, I don't like the game. I like the beta better. But I've grown out of that pretty quickly.
Speaking of that launch tournament, like I was in attendance over there too. How was your experience there?
It was good. So some background, the launch tournament was at Contender Gilbert. Contender Esports has been a place for the Street Fighter scene to play lately on PC. The Street Fighter scene had been gathering at the Gaming Zone, but ever since like it's started to become more public that the PC version and the PS4 version are not in parity with one another. PS4 has significantly more lag, and PS5 is even worse. For Street Fighter 5, again,
Yeah.
I'm not talking about 6, I'm talking about 5 here. There is a difference between the versions in 5. Um, the issue, we ended up migrating to Contender and playing on their PCs there for Street Fighter 5, and they've been kind of hosting us for probably, I want to say like 6 months. And so they had basically just been trying to like prep for this big Street Fighter 6 launch tournament. And I'd been giving them some advice behind the scenes on like how to prep for it and how to run the brackets and stuff like that. And by and large, they knew what they were doing anyway. So most of my advice was around promotion. But when we got there for the launch tournament, the first news that I got, and I think it's okay to say this publicly because they said it at the beginning of the tournament, was that Contender is closing. So that venue is no longer going to be around. It sounded like they kind of were hanging in there for Street Fighter 6, but it came a little too late.
Yeah, it's a little too late. Yeah.
Yeah. So the tournament itself was great. It was some of the best energy that I've had at a competitive event in a long time. Pre-pandemic, our numbers were like, I think the Street Fighter 5 launch tournament was 60 people, but then post-pandemic, the numbers have been so small for any gathering, in any scene really. So for Contender, I think they hit 53. So for it to nearly match Street Fighter 5 in a post-pandemic world, I think that's a huge, huge sign. Especially because this game is like we had every incentive to just be like, I'm going to stay home and play online instead because the netcode's so good, the lobbies are so good, the battle hub's awesome. But 53 people decided to come out from their homes and play at Contender Esports in Gilbert, which is it's not a short drive for some of us.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, for me, it was only like 15 minutes. I think the numbers may have been a little bit less. I don't know how it was for the like the standard bracket they had, but
Mm,
there's quite a few like DQs like in the non-beta bracket that I participated in.
yeah.
And I think the biggest thing for me was just other than you and I think I want to say four or five other people that, I've known in the scene for the 10 years I've been here. Everybody else I had no clue who they were. So that I think kind of bodes well for, our local scene, whether that's offline or online, that there's people that want to play this. I mean, whether how far they're going to continue, like that's to be determined. But it was nice to see. Basically, I'd say at least 2/3 of the bracket be people that I just don't know at all.
Yeah, I think that it was a mix of like old gen, which is who you're talking about,
Yeah.
and there's some new gen folks like that I've been playing Street Fighter V with and enjoying the scene after the pandemic, really.
Mm.
And then there was a whole another class of people like that. I just like there was like some Strive crossover. There was some folks that came out from Goodyear,
Oh,
which was super
really?
cool. Yeah. And then there was a guy who moved here from San Diego, and so we connected, and so now he's part of a training group that we've got going.
Nice.
I'm trying to think of who else. I got to see Dr. Dog, who I haven't seen in a very very long time. I got to see uh, who else? Tony Wynn. Like lots of people from the old days, but then just lots of new people too. It was
Yeah.
crazy. Shout outs to Gabe Z, by the way, for being a legacy player and then registering for the bracket and then not showing up. So
Yeah,
we'll call him out.
I mean, I know that they were call. I mean, that might have been part of like contender, just not checking the dotting their i's and crossing their t's kind of thing beforehand. Because like you could have just taken those people out of the bracket if they weren't there. Because I remember just them calling people and just being like, hey, these like, they're not here at all. Like we don't think they're gonna show up.
I have yet to see. Yeah, I guess you could just run the DQ. You could just DQ them like just write it down as a loss.
Yeah.
But I with the online stuff with Smash GG, it's kind of hard to remove people from brackets. I think you'll find that out if you run an event. It's annoying
Oh,
as
okay.
shit. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I haven't done that in a while. Like, I mean,
yeah. It's online tournaments are a whole nother deal. But anyway,
yeah.
yeah, the event was good. There was a beta bracket and a non-beta bracket where all the original 8 characters from the open beta were banned.
Mhm.
And so everybody had to play one of the new characters. I went with Cammy, and you went with Honda, or did you play Sim as well?
No, I played Honda straight through. I wasn't. Sim wasn't ready. Sim barely got like trials done, and that was it.
Fair enough. Any noteworthy matches?
I got to play. Well, I think the first one was a DQ, and then the first person I played was a Geef player, and I don't know if it was the first person, but that's the one match I remember. And in all honesty, I think he should have won. It's just he missed a lot of his punishes, but we take those like any opportunity. I don't care who it is, top player, low level player, doesn't matter. Like if you miss your execution, that's not my fault. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, it was definitely kind of different dynamic. I wasn't really hitting any combos other than like a standard like normal and the headbutt kind of thing. Everything else that I tried was just a waste of drive meter at that point, and I was just like, okay, I'm not ready to do this.
Yeah,
Or
I
it's
get
not,
you.
it's yeah, like I was saying earlier, like it's not in my mind yet to for this to be my combo route. So I'll just stop doing that.
It's funny how you say that, but like in the background on our video feed, like you have landed this advanced 2 combo a couple times or gotten close to it at least. So
Yeah. Oh, this is the one. Okay, so this was one of the situations with the hitbox where I was getting frustrated because um I had to hold charge, or I had to do the 2 motions, and then I had to charge, and then I had to do the super.
Mhm.
And it was frustrating me because I was missing just the end part with the super. So I felt like my timing was just barely off, and I got frustrated to the point to where I was like, I threw the hitbox to the side, and I was like, "Let me get my stick and let me see if I can do this." And I don't know if I did it at this point, but I did it later, and it was just like, okay, well, I can do this combo. It's just the hitbox is the thing that was kind of holding me back.
Yeah. And there's layers here too, right? Where it's like you can do this combo in a trial mode. Can you do this combo in a match? And then can you do this combo in a tournament? And so it sounded
Yeah,
like in your tournament matches, you were like, nah, we're going to stick with the basics. Did you do
yeah,
jab into headbutt?
yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, it
Hell
was just
yeah.
like jabbing the headbutts, or it was like jabbing the normals in the hands, and and the kid, like even the supers I tried, I was like, it's weird having access to three supers at once, and one of them not, one of them being a charge super for his headbutt, but for since the super turbo days, it's been a punch input. So when I was like, I'm here, I am ready to do the super. I hit the punch, and I'm like, no, it's a kick now, and it's just like it's driving me crazy. Like I'm at the point to where I'm about to put a command list on my stick or like put it on my wall just so I can see it and visualize it and uh, even like reference it while I'm playing, so I can just be like, okay, I need this in this situation. Oh, okay, super two is this. That's what I need.
I I made a tweet earlier about this, but like I've had like I want to say like 6 or 7 people reach out to me and ask for Chun Li combos. And I had a Google Doc going for a little while as I was like examining footage that I saw, like on
Yeah,
the like those early Chun Li matches with the AI, or like closed beta 1 matches or closed beta 2 matches. And I just took a bunch of notes down and wrote out a list. But that I found that as I've played this game more and more, that the list, because everything has a cost associated to it,
yeah,
that the definition of optimal changes so much, where it's
yeah,
like everyone's like, I need a starter combo, I need a combo starter off of stand jab, and I'm like, okay, uh do you want to burn drive? How much drive do you want to burn? Do you want to burn it on an EX? Do you want to burn it on a DRC?
yeah,
Do you want to go into super? Do you want to go into super 1 or 2? Because you have to do a different route based on that. And it's like you don't you have to like have the combo already in mind based on the situation. There's no like optimal like do this every single time
yeah,
choice. And
exactly.
it's not even like a Street Fighter 5 had a little bit of choice where you could be like, I want damage, I want Oki, or I want both if I burn meter. It's most of the time you could make that decision. But
Yeah,
in 6 it's like there's like 9 variations of permutations of your combo, because like you have your starter meterless, you have EX, you have drive rush, you have 2 drive rush, you have 2 EX, you have super 1, 2, 3. Like the mind explodes when I'm playing, and eventually I was just like, you know what, I don't give a shit about what's optimal anymore.
yeah, yeah. Like I had replied to that tweet when I saw it about how I was making a spreadsheet for Honda, and
Yeah,
I was I knew there was going to be a lot, so I divided. I was making tabs for it, and I started with the one for like anti-airs. So I started with the normals, and it was like, okay, this normal does this normal does this, and then I had seen a video in terms of like punishing people's neutral jumps, right? So drive rush and then hitting them out of the air,
with
and
fierce.
then so I started that, and then I did like one combo, and then I was like, okay, so I did drive rush, standing medium punch into light hands. Okay, that does this much damage, and I had had columns for like drive meter, super meter, everything, and then
Yeah,
it was just like, okay, now I got to do this for medium hands, and then I got to do this for heavy hands, then I got to use this for OD hands, and then it's just like, then what if I want to extrapolate on this and add a little bit more damage? So then, like you said, there's so many permutations, so many options in terms of like what you can do or where to go next, that I was like, if I was gonna try to list all of this, like there's no way. Like I'm gonna be here all day trying to figure out like, what my meter usage is gonna be, whether or not that's gonna be worth it in that situation. So it's just, I
yeah,
mean, it's gonna be hard times documenting that stuff. Because the main reason I was even gonna do it was I was thinking of making like a Honda basic tutorial video, but after looking through that stuff, I was just like, I don't even know if that's something that's going to be worth doing, especially with all the different combinations, because you're going to do something you think is optimal, and somebody's going to be like, well, if you squeezed out another half meter here, you could have got 80 more damage, and I'm like, uh,
yeah. But what if you don't want to burn that half meter because you might burn out, right? So like
yeah,
your combo is still relevant, their combo is still relevant, but it's based on choice on situation.
yeah,
um it kind of reminds me of Marvel in a way, where with Marvel, like obviously Marvel thinks Marvel 3, people think about the big ass combos in that game, and
hmm,
how there's like staircase combos, there's lightning loops, there's fatal claw loops and stuff like that. But you could always break down Marvel combos into very specific inflection points,
hmm,
where at least in my case was zero, I'd be like, I just need to combo into my buster somehow, and I'll get a soft knockdown, and I know that what my combo is after that. It doesn't matter what my starter is. I just need to go into buster somehow, and it's like
Yeah,
that with Chun for me, where it's like I just need to make sure I can get that back fierce off, and then after that, like I can do a combo route based on my the situation. I can branch from there, but everything leading up to that point is a very linear optimal combo. Um, and I think that people are just used to having the entire combo like spelled out,
yeah,
but it's really about freestyling, and
yeah,
it's less so about optimizing your damage and more about, at least in the case for Wolverine and for Zero and Marvel, it was more about, can I just do as much damage as I can, or as many hits as I can in my combo, so I build up the meter so I can loop and kill the character.
yeah,
Um, in this game, you don't end in a kill, but it's like I just need to make sure that I get to a point where I can loop my drive rush combos and then get Oki off that. And
yeah.
it's focusing on inflection points basically.
Yeah. Well, and it made me think of something else too in terms of the combo routes, because with the drive meter, right? You have to take all of this into account in real time. So depending if I get an anti-air stray hit, I have to, make a decision right there. And if I don't have the right amount of meter, like you said, I'm going to burn out, or I might not have the enough meter to do exactly what I want. And
Yep.
then so that becomes a problem for yourself. So like, yeah, I don't think I'm at the point to where it's where I'm worried about damage. It's more just like, how can I capitalize off this situation? And then on top of that, there's a lot of characters that have like the install boost, right? Like Honda has the what does he call it? I forgot what it's called. It's like the sumo spirit. That's what it's called. Lily has her
Yeah.
wind clad thing. Like a lot of characters have those kind of things where they need to boost themselves up. So for
Mhm.
me, like the situation might be like, let me just end this combo in a headbutt so that I get a knockdown and I can boost up my hands for next combo.
Yep.
Same thing. I've been playing Old Man River. He does the same thing. Get a knockdown. Let me boost my wind clad, so because I need that.
Yep.
So again, that becomes a decision versus just going for damage and being like, okay, well, how close can I get him to death? It's like that might not be your most advantageous situation.
Yep. Yep. I think the whole like back off and do your install thing, that's a Marvel. It's an assist cooldown essentially, where you back off, you return to neutral, you wait for your assist to go off cooldown, then you go in knowing that you have that stuff to cover you, which is
Yeah,
similar to Honda, where it's like I back off, I salute the sun, I go in, I make sure my hands are plus.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. See, I mean, again, that's all stuff you got to take into account in real time, and the opponent's health also, because you might know, okay, well, I have a 5,000 damage combo I can do, but you have to determine like, do I have the resources to do that at this point, or do I
Yeah.
need to kind of wait back and let my meter build up, or wait for, or maybe I need two combos instead. Maybe that's a better route.
Yeah. To get on a soapbox briefly here is like, if there's one thing that I would recommend to new players that are trying to learn this game, I think it's that burnout is okay.
Mhm.
I think we can all watch YouTube videos and everyone will be like, I don't want to burn out. Burnout is very punishing. It sucks, blah, blah, blah. And to play at highest level, you never burn out, right? And the issue with that advice is that people take it and then they just choose not to burn out and they deliberately don't explore all of their options. You cannot play close to the line if you never cross it, essentially. And so if you don't know what all your options are and you are afraid to explore them and burn out, then your knowledge of the character and your ability to do that freestyling that we were talking about earlier, it's going to be lacking. And your knowledge, and you're gonna cross your wires a lot more because you just haven't done it as much because you didn't burn out.
Yeah.
So I think in order to actually know what your character's limitations are, you have to be willing to burn that meter and possibly take the loss in order to in the service of learning what your limitations are.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And I mean, I don't know. Everybody uses the word mental stack or the phrase mental stack, and it's like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something else that, but the whole situation is really kind of overwhelming when you start to kind of break down everything that has to happen in those situations. Because I feel like as you see more people play in tournaments and videos are out there, you're gonna see a lot of people get a lot of criticism about the decisions that they make, and it's like, oh well, you could have killed at this moment, and I was like, you know what, I got a stray hit. I was like, I was doing whatever I could in the moment to get some damage in. Like I wasn't thinking like, oh, I can combo this into this and this. Like ideally, yeah, I would have loved to kill right there, but considering the situation, it's like it's not like a standard jump in combo, right? I think that's one thing in this game that I'm pretty sure was lacking in five was like the trades, because in five it was more like priority and like you just got crushed, right?
Yep.
And I see a lot more trades in terms of like whether you guys are hitting buttons at the same times or whatever, or even anti-airs.
Yep, I agree. I think that trade combos are. I have a whole soapbox about the priority system in 5, but I won't get into that. I think it's anyway. But trade combos are interesting where like you can set them up and you can be like, I'm going to deliberately leave this 4-frame gap, and if they press a button, we'll trade, but I'll combo after that trade, and I'll be a badass and it'll look cool. And that's a fun thing. So yeah, to get back to we were talking about the contender tournament. So you beat Geef, and you mentioned that it was kind of a close one. What happened after that?
So I lost my next 2 matches. Who did I play? I know. Man, I can't think of the second one, but the person that eliminated me was playing Blanca. So
Was
I
it
was
Nadri?
It was Neko.
Yeah, Neko Nadri. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so I lost to them, and again, it was just like it's both kind of like a feeling out process, both playing really patiently, and then again, just not really having a good grasp of like my options and stuff. Because I think the way I died is he threw out the Blanca-chan, and I was like, let me see if I could super through this, and then I just like hit it and I died, and I was like, oh, okay, well that doesn't work. Like good games, I was I was having fun, so.
Yeah, I'll be real. Like with launch tournaments, they're a unique like style of tournament in that you're gonna get hit by something that you've never seen before, and it's gonna suck because you've never seen it before, and the stakes are high because it's a tournament match. Yeah. And like it's really a lot of times early game life cycle. It's more about who can have the most oppressive flowchart offense, and be pristine about that, so that way they. Like your opponent doesn't have time to learn the matchup, because guess what? The game just came out. You're not gonna learn the Blanca matchup in one tournament set.
Yeah, exactly. Like I mean, yeah, even then, like you're gonna be your defensive options are still gonna be somewhat new to you. Like, what do I do in this situation, or what can I do during this knockdown?
Yep.
Those are all things that are not gonna be fresh in your mind. So yeah, oppressive offense is definitely the way to go. I definitely didn't have anything like that going on.
Oh, you did charge back and then forward and heavy punch, right?
Yeah, but overall, I had fun. It was good. It was good seeing people, and it was a little sad to hear about contender closing, because that was actually I hadn't contacted anybody about it yet, but that's the place that I was looking to do like the kind of potluck and social things that we've been talking about in the past episodes. So now I've got to look for something different to do, or some other way that might be able to pull that off.
Have you thought about holding it at the park? Obviously not in the summertime, but like when it cools down in September or something.
I don't know. That would be kind of cool.
If people are still playing this game by then.
Yeah, we'll do a barbecue outside.
Yeah.
So in terms of the tournament, how did you do in the non-beta tournament?
I got 3rd place, if I recall correctly. Yeah, I got 3rd place with Cammy. That's how I met the San Diego guy. We played the mirror. And then I played against who did I lose to? I lost to
Strasher.
I lost to Christian in winners. No, I lost to Thrasher in winners. You're right. I lost to Thrasher in winners. He was playing Manon, and with Cammy, I just like doing low forward into everything because that's just the way the character is played. And then Manon has stand medium kick as an anti low forward tool. So I got mauled. It was bad. And then later on in the bracket, I I lost to Christian, who was playing Marissa. Is that right? I think so. Yeah, that's right. I think that's right. I lost to Christian, who was playing Marissa. Yeah, this is what happened. I lost to Christian, who was playing Marissa, and that was even a even bigger mauling. I didn't know what Marissa could do, and Christian was just like really like heavy on the pressure, which blows my mind because Sia is very much a defensive player. He plays Guile, he zones very often. He plays Ryu, he zones, he runs away with jump back jab. But then I just got rushed down by this Guile play. And so he wrecked my shit. I got out of the tournament at third, and then those two played. Thrasher and Sia played at grand finals, and Thrasher won the first Street Fighter 6 tournament in Arizona.
Yeah, well, non-beta, but let's still give it to him.
Yeah. To our friends in the chat who are asking about which character I played, just to recap, I played Cammy, and then Benny played Honda.
Yeah, and then it's funny you mentioned Sia. I actually ran into them online. I didn't even know, like, I wasn't even paying attention. Like, I'm just sitting here, rank match queues up. I'm just like, yeah, I'll accept it. And I started playing, and then I saw, because we made in Street Fighter 6, you can make a club, like a little group or whatever that you can invite your friends to and stuff. So we made an Absolute Guard club. John did, and I didn't notice until I started playing, and then I was like, hold up, it says Absolute Guard too, and I was like, oh wait, this is what I'm,
It's a local,
the name. Yeah, and again, he was playing Marissa. And it's funny that you mentioned about his defensive style, because that's basically how he played against me. So to hear him, again, like you said, the oppressive rushdown was a great thing to do at the tournament. Like, it looks like he's already evolved to the point where he's like, all right, I'm going to play reactionary and defensive, because, my first, I don't know, 5-6 matches that I've had against Marissa have been absolutely horrible. Like, I've got a mix of Sia playing defensive, where I'm just like, I don't know how to crack the shell and get in. And then the other part where it's just like, they're just completely overrunning me. And I was like, I don't know how to counter any of this stuff.
Yeah. Like my default from the open beta was just to drive impact if I knew they were being autopilot. And then he did an armor break move on my drive impact and fucked me up and killed me. I was like, oh, I don't know anything about this character. But yeah, like I think that character fits him really well. I think Manon fits Thrasher really well. Thrasher formerly played Kimberly, and they put Kimberly in a wheelchair.
That's one way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, she got hella nerfed from the open beta, and most of her neutral actually got nerfed. Her offensive setups didn't get nerfed, but her neutral did, and so I don't think Thrasher wanted to mess with that. So he's playing Manon pretty much full time now, and he's finding some bullshit with her. So we'll probably see him in the coming weeks here.
Nice. Okay, so in terms of the non-beta tournament, you got third. Sia got second, and then Thrasher won that. And then I had to leave. I have to work at night. So, but there was a standard bracket where all of the characters were allowed to play. How did that end up going for you in terms of your tournament run there?
I won the tournament. That was. I think I lost one game to Christian's Marissa, actually.
Okay.
He played Ryu against me first. This was like winners semis or winners quarters or something. He played Ryu against me first. I beat his Ryu once, and then he played Marissa for the rest of the set, and he beat me once with Marissa, and then after that I don't think I lost a game. I played Chun-Li, and I think second place was Big Mac Combo 98. Is it 98 or 96? Big Mac Combo. He's been on the show.
98. Yeah,
it's 98. Okay.
98, yeah.
And he was playing Ryu, and then third place I believe was Thrasher playing Manon. Thrasher stuck with Manon pretty much the entire bracket. My understanding is he busted out Kimberly a couple times, particularly I think against the JP. Because he was like, I don't know what to do with Manon and this fireball bullshit. And that was it was a good tournament. I got to network with a lot of different people in the scene. People joined the Spiral Series Discord, which is where most of the Street Fighter 6 Arizona stuff is happening. I don't know. That's a little bit presumptuous to say. I think that at the very least, there's a good 20 or 30 people in that Discord that are actively playing at any given moment.
Yeah.
And every night we've had we've had a voice chat going. I think we tried team battle last night. That was really fun. This is all an ad for my Discord, by the way. So feel free to join the Spiral Series Discord if you haven't already. But yeah, that's honestly, I think that's the feature of the game, is that we all, like, we can just hop in to the Discord server, hop into voice, hop into a room and play as a big group if we want to. We played a team battle as a big group, and that took a little bit of time to organize, but it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I haven't looked at any of that stuff at all. In terms of like the I guess the online stuff at launch, like how have you been liking the way that they've set that up? Because like I was playing, like I said, I played matches for the first time yesterday, and I remember I saw a picture for it, but the lobbies are kind of set up where you can have like basically 4 matches going at one time,
Yeah.
and people kind of just, you can sit at the, I guess, in a slot there and just be like, hey, I'm going to sit on this side until one of you guys wants to queue up and play me.
Yeah. You can even set the 4th station to be a training mode station and just do one-on-one online training mode.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So like, it is everything that we wanted out of Street Fighter V's lobby system. Street Fighter 4 got a pass because we were like, hey, it's on the internet for the first time. This is great. And there were like incremental improvements, but also some setbacks with Street Fighter V's lobby system. But 6 just blows it out of the park, or out of the water, knocks it out of the park, blows it out of the water.
Yeah, there you go.
It's got concurrent stations. You can fit like 16 people in a lobby all hanging out together. You can configure individual stations for individual rule sets.
Oh, wow.
You can set it to first to 2, first to 5, first to 3, first to 10, infinity. You can turn on the team battle mode, and then you can do 1v1 teams where like one person controls 3 characters, or you can do a full-on team battle mode where we had 6 people and it was 3v3 and each person controls 1 character.
Wow.
The invite system itself is not busted like in Street Fighter V, where you wouldn't get an invite in Street Fighter V if you were in a menu, or if you were in a match or something. You'd had to make sure that you were sitting and waiting for that invite to come and ready to go, and there was like a handshake process involved there. But in 6, it's like it all happens asynchronously. You just pull up the invite and you join it. You can search. There's privacy codes. There's just so much there. It is everything that we want. Oh, it also has like seamless Battle Hub integration, where you can be in the Battle Hub and running around and doing shit, and then you can just open the menu and jump into a custom room immediately.
Oh, wow.
When you play in ranked matches, if you lose to an opponent and you're like, man, I wish I could grind that out, you can go to training mode with that character, but you can also pick an option that says meet in custom room, and it'll set up a custom room with your opponent, and you can continue to play casuals there without the stakes and just grind the matchup out.
I completely overlooked that option because everybody's been pointing out that train against this character thing on Twitter and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I completely overlooked the fact that that's the bottom option, isn't it?
Yeah.
Meet in custom room. Yeah, because like that's always something that even while I've been playing Street Fighter 4 the last couple of months, like you play the rank matches in that were set up. You get to play one game, right, and that's it. And then you go, you jump back in the queue, and you're hoping that person still has their lobby going, and you join back up, kind of thing. And occasionally, there's been times where, like, I've been wanting to be like, man, I want to play this guy more. Let's go jump in a custom room or whatever.
Yeah.
And to have that as an option, that's really cool.
Yeah, it is. They're like the one downside that I saw, and this is more of like the monkey's paw, or like the thing where it's like we finally got what we wanted, but we wanted it so bad that we didn't think about a drawback, is that when we had 6 people in our team battle, not the team battle, when we had 6 people in the lobby at the same time, and there were three concurrent stations and a Discord call, there's a lot of talking over each other, and that was kind of rough. So we are all together virtually, but that has all the problems of being all together virtually.
Yeah, because you don't have your own personal space, right? That's something that we would do in Street Fighter 5, kind of amongst our kind of like group of friends. Like, you would be in one lobby with three, 2 other people. I'd be in a lobby with 2 other people, and we'd be on the Discord chat and just talking whatever, or and there's a lot of stray conversation. Oh, why would you do that there? Or oh, that was a nice hit, and you're just like, wait, what are you watching? Or there's nothing going on here.
Oh yeah, that's another thing is that you can spectate matches pretty freely within the lobbies. It's actually so cool. You can get in the queue on one station and watch another station.
Hmm.
It's godlike. This lobby system is best in business. Like Guilty Gear Strive had a chance to be the best, and it like the lobby system was unfortunately hampered by that pixel 2D thing that they've got going. But I think that they kind of pushed it. They set the standard for a lobby like it with Exert and Dragon Ball Fighters and whatnot, and then
Yeah,
Street Fighter 6 like one upped that.
yeah,
And I'm hoping that Tekken and whatever the next ArcSys game also like have like maybe Grand Blue, the sequel to Grand Blue, maybe they'll add all that, all
yeah.
the lobby stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome because I mean in an ideal world that's what competition breeds innovation kind of thing, right? And that's what you want to see from the other developers. It's just like, well, they did this really well. We want you guys to do the same thing or even better.
Yeah.
Like there shouldn't be necessarily like us going backwards or us losing features for some reason because some developers shown that hey we can do this or this can be done.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this game is more in every sense of the word. It's got more features. It's got more character depth,
Yeah.
more combos, more choice, more expression, more everything.
Yeah, I mean, there's like you said, we bring up Street Fighter Five and its lackluster launch a lot, and I'll give Capcom credit in terms of that. Like, I think they've one learned their lesson, and I think in a lot of ways they've realized like to a lot of people, like Street Fighter is like the main fighting game, right? Like when people think of fighting games, like that's always been the thing. Street Fighter's been in the mainstream. The characters are probably the most recognizable, right? If you were to throw Chun Li somewhere, most people have been like, "Oh yeah, that's that one character," Versus
Yep.
if I was to put in like Paul Phoenix, somebody would been like, I don't know who that is." You know what I mean? Like Street Fighter's always kind of been that mainstream thing, and it's awesome to see them really kind of take that to heart and the feedback and to see what this launch is compared to five is night and day.
Yeah, I agree. There were some launch issues. Again, like with 5, it was like the game just didn't work online. So eat shit like that. Like there's no topping that. But for 6, the main launch issue, and this happened, I want to say for the first 2 days, was that custom rooms, those rooms that I just got done raving about, they didn't work. They were
Yeah,
down, and so people had to
yeah,
play Battle Hub if they were in casual, if they wanted to play casually, which is again still a
yeah,
step up because you can still play your friends online. um, but I would say that like this is the controversial part here is that every review that I read, the pre-release reviews for this game, everyone said they listed the lobbies as a positive
mhm,
without like actually reviewing them because I guess they weren't live or something during the review copies, during the review period. um, or alternatively like it was a lower volume or something and they were actually working. I'm not sure, but my understanding is the time window to actually execute on that stuff was very very small, and so many reviewers just didn't test the online stuff, which
wow,
I have like concerns about that as far as like review culture goes. I
yeah,
like as somebody who's bought the product, I think that's a little whack. um, but again, I really like the lobbies. I like what we ended up with, and they fixed it. They fixed it right away, as opposed to with 5, where I think it was broken for like a week.
yeah. Yeah, it looks like yeah, because I remember seeing the tweet, so it looks like it was kind of sporadic. Like they would fix it, and then it'd be like, "Oh wait, we're having problems again. We're gonna take this down or whatever." I was looking at the chat. We have a chat from Muskogee One. Said he came back from Street Fighter 4, was hesitant. He's waiting for mainly Abel, but would be cool with Adon or Dudley, and that just made me think of one in terms of like the DLC that we know is coming so far for the first year. In terms of those particular characters, like I don't know if Abel's gonna be back. I feel like Manon's supposed to be Abel in this game because she's French. Also, she's command grab driven, and
Yep.
I don't know if a character like Abel is necessarily going to be coming back.
Yeah, I definitely think Dudley will be back. I think this game suits him really well.
Yeah.
Um, I think that Adon could also fit pretty well too with the parry system. I don't know about Abel because, as you said, he's mainly superseded by Manon
Yeah.
functionally, which again functions.
Yeah. I mean,
That's not gonna satisfy a lot of people.
no, just thinking about like you talk about like being overwhelmed by options and stuff, and like Dudley in past games has been one character with a ton of options on your wake up, and whether it was meaty overheads or whatever. Like, man, I can't imagine playing a character with that should have that many options, and then adding drive rush and everything else. Man, that's that would be really overwhelming. At that point, you're just gonna be like, "What do I want to do?" Like that whole freedom expression thing really comes out.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
and then the other thing I wanted to mention was in terms of like the DLC. So there's a quite a bit of controversy online in terms of what people thought that they were getting with the like the ultimate edition of the game. I don't know
Oh,
if you saw stuff with that, but I guess people were expecting the colors and the costumes to be unlocked for the main cast as well. And
oh,
I never got that impression from I pre-ordered on like a key site or whatever, and looking at the Steam description, it says four additional characters who we know of is Rashid, Aki, Ed, and Akuma, and then the rest of the description says four additional characters colors, and then four additional characters costumes.
yeah.
And so to me, like I just interpreted it as that okay, this is all for the DLC characters. This is no way implies colors and costumes for everybody else. But yet I saw a lot of tweets where people were like, "Are you going to address the situation with the content that we didn't get?" And I'm
Oh,
like, "What content didn't you get? Like it was DLC and drive tickets, and that's it. Like all you should have got at this point is drive tickets." And
right.
so Capcom even had to go to the point to where they tweeted out saying, "Hey, this stuff's coming at a later time." And there's been a lot of discourse about that. Like if you look on Steam for the Ultimate Edition DLC, there's a lot of like I think it's down to like 17% negative review.
Oh,
Like
they
that's how
review
low it
bombed it.
was. Yeah,
Okay.
because of the fact like, oh well, I didn't get anything for this, or don't waste your money. And if you look at the price points and everything, it's kind of standard for nowadays. It was like if you bought the Ultimate Edition pre-order, like you're saving, I think like $5 versus buying it after launch. So whether or not you think there's necessarily value in there for what you're getting, I mean, you're still saving a little bit of money, which is typically how it's been done for a lot of games when it comes to those kind of deluxe and like ultimate editions.
Yeah. Hey, there's two different angles that are not angles. There are two different arguments here that I think that are tangled together. Um, Number one is, did people read the fine print or not? And is it fair for them to complain about something that is very clearly stated that they weren't going to get? Um, Actually, I don't even. Is it very clearly? That's the debate though. Is it very actually clear to that? Because the other argument is, should all that stuff be gated behind money anyway?
Yeah,
And I think that's where the emotion comes in, where it's like, hey, I'm used to having these 10 colors, not necessarily unlocked at launch, but I used to be able to unlock them through progression.
yeah,
But the issue is that you can't unlock colors through progression yet. You just can't. Like you have to buy the colors via drive tickets or
yeah,
via the fighter coins where you pay real currency, and
yeah,
the drive tickets are not doled out very much at all. Like I'm playing through World Tour right now, and I'm sure we're gonna get to World Tour eventually. But
yeah.
I have yet to unlock any drive tickets, and so I bought the Ultimate Edition. I had enough to buy Chun Li's colors, and that's all I've got.
Hmm.
And that kind of it's kind of it's gated. It's gated behind something you can't even like. It's in the game. The colors are in the game, but you can't access them unless you pay real money. And we
Yeah,
didn't used to have to do that, and that is kind of a bummer. We can still acknowledge that it's changed, even though
yeah,
they've written it down that it's different. Um,
yeah,
I don't know where I stand on a lot of that stuff. I get it. It's like this is the way things are now, but at the same time,
yeah. We don't have to like it. Yeah.
yeah.
No, yeah, I see where you're coming from. It's just like I don't know. I've got like Yeah, Punker in the chat here mentioned playing. He plays a fair amount of first-person shooters, and seeing people going wild over a fighter's pass is kind of funny. And like, I'm kind of the same way. Like, I've kind of just been used to kind of the DLC situation with a lot of games and just what I'm getting, and being sure like I know what I'm getting, because I feel like these are the same kind of people that might go buy like a ultimate edition of a game that doesn't actually include the game, right? It just includes like a statue and a bunch of like extras and stuff, and they'll be like, "Hey, where's my game?" And I was like, "Didn't you read the fine print?" I was just like, "This is like the super collector's edition where we just want you to pay for a bunch of like merch and extra stuff."
Yeah.
Right? To me, that's I think that that's it's kind of wild that they wouldn't even include the game. Like I had never bought anything like that. Like every kind of collector's edition I bought has the game with it. So to like see that that's a thing nowadays kind of just blows my mind. But hey, it's like there's a market for it out there, and again, you just got to read the fine print and know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me that's a little bit like, hey, you should read the end user license agreement every time you install a new piece of software, right? And
Yeah,
there's a point where it's like, you can't expect, like, it's actually, I think it's part of like some court cases, even like you can't reasonably expect people to read through all that stuff.
yeah,
Just to give voice to the other opinion here, where
yeah,
it's ultimately like it's pragmatism versus idealism, where the ideal is that we shouldn't have to do this stuff and it should be consumer friendly, and the pragmatism is it's not going to be that way ever again. So
yeah,
get used to it and work within the confines that we, or the environment that we're now in, right?
yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you mentioned the World Tour mode. I haven't even loaded that up yet. Like, but how's that been? I mean, that's something that I thought my son would play on the side, and like he would. I don't know. I think a part of me is thinking like in the much younger years when he would kind of like do the uh, do the grinding for me in certain games. I've heard stories about that from some of my friends too. It's like, hey, my dad told me to go play this game and do this specific thing, and like, the reality of it is this is like a fetch quest or some side thing that he wanted you to do that because he didn't want to do it himself, right? So I guess that's kind of like what my thought process was, is like my son's gonna play World Tour mode and I won't really have to. But I don't know. I
Yeah.
think I might just have to jump into it. And from what I've seen from like what you mentioned, you've kind of taken a liking to it and kind of just let yourself get immersed in the Street Fighter universe, really, right?
Yeah. I probably, I think I've even said it on this show that like I'm so cynical about single player content, particularly because with Street Fighter 5 it was like I got what I wanted out of the game, and then all I got to hear is people complaining about no single player stuff, and I didn't give a
Yeah.
shit about any of that stuff. I got my game.
Yeah,
um
well, I mean, well, to bring up Street Fighter Five in that terms, like the Street Fighter Five story mode was really kind of bare bones, right? It was, I don't know, probably a matter of, okay, play this match. Here's a still, an artwork still with some words that you can, click through, and then play another match, and then we'll have like a 4 or 5 uh, picture montage or whatever slideshow for you to look through here, and that was like the gist of the story mode.
at launch, yeah, that was
Yeah,
the
yeah,
that
at
was the
launch, yeah.
character story. Then they had the cinematic story too, which was like a
Oh,
Shadow
right, right, right.
Falls. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's
that's right.
like
That's right.
full on cutscenes, like big globe trotting storyline. It's just a Saturday morning cartoon. um and I liked it. I thought it was dumb, but it was enjoyable. But again, it's cool to hate on Street Fighter 5, and a lot of people
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
even play that mode. But for 6, I went in with that same cynicism, being like, this isn't for me. I hate open world games. I think open world games are ass. Like, with a passion. I
yeah,
don't like Metroidvanias, and I don't like open world games. And to the point where, like, 2 weeks ago, like, you mentioned, you're waiting for G to play to play the world tour for you. We bought Tears of the Kingdom, and I'm like, I don't want to play Zelda. Like, I know everybody really wants to play it, but I don't want to do another stupid open world game. And so
yeah,
my fiance just has just like completely been taken in by the world. She's really enjoying the game, and I
yeah,
can just watch the cutscenes with her, and then every now and then poke back as she's fighting a big boss and get the experience without actually having to do the work of the open world game, which is, move from amusement park ride to amusement park ride with padding of like random role playing shit. That's the issue that I have with open world games, and I was able to look past a lot of that stuff because it's a generic open world game. The story is not remotely good, but
Yeah.
it's Street Fighter. And that's the part where I'm like, oh, they put Persona in my Street Fighter, and now I can make relationships with all these characters that I know very well. And I read the prequel comic for Street Fighter 6 where it goes over like Ken's storyline and the Nashal incident. And it's pretty good. They really changed Ken's character, and he grew organically, and then you get to see the after effects of that in the World Tour mode. And
Okay.
there's all these like little Easter eggs where like as you're building the relationships with them, like again, it's textbook Persona or Fire Emblem Three Houses, or like that standard like JRPG like relationship building dating simulator style of game. And every time you talk to them, they drop some piece of trivia. Like Ken mentioned Sean a couple times, Ryu mentioned Sakura. I ran into Retsu from Street Fighter 1. Or like there's just a lot of like little Easter eggs, and that's only like the small piece, and a lot of that stuff I think is actually in promotional material, so I apologize if I just spoiled. But like it's just filled with a lot of that fan service, and
Yeah.
there's this weird like shonen style optimism to the tone of the story, where it's about getting stronger, and that's a really weak narrative device from a story perspective. But you know, with my experience with 5 and the cynicism and, you know, waiting to hear everybody bitch on the internet, something simple and positive and like just the, you know, it's the endorphins that you get after doing a good workout. When you feel really good afterwards, they're basically just trying to instill that tone in the game. And that cotton candy style optimism is like Luke. It's basically Luke. Like Luke is basically the tone of the World Tour mode, where you're like, I'm getting strong and it feels good and this is awesome and I'm going to right the world and this is going to be a lot of fun. And that's just something that I wasn't expecting, and something that just took me for a ride, and I'm still on that ride right now. It's great. World Tour is awesome.
Yeah, I have to give that a shot. Like, I don't know, like, you know, when it comes to fighting games, right? It's no secret that a lot of fighting games, you know, when it comes to arcade mode or story mode or stuff like that, you know, there's lore, right? And there's stuff that's canon and whatnot. But for the most part, it's just kind of backstory, right? It's not anything that people take super seriously. There's a lot of elements of like nonsense, and it's kind of whatever, right? It's kind of a um what's the word I'm thinking of? It's kind of an afterthought, really, when it comes to the game itself, right?
Yeah.
It's like when you say, "Oh, I'm gonna go play Street Fighter," most people are like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go play the story mode," right? That's not, you know, oh, who are you gonna play as? So, you know, who are you playing with, right? Your friends or whatever, tournament, competition, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, from what I've heard, I know that there were a lot of Easter eggs in there. I've seen, you know, random screenshots here and there on Twitter where people are mentioning, like you said, like Street Fighter 1. I think there's other games referenced from like Breath of Fire was like an old Capcom RPG.
Yep.
On Super Nintendo. I never played those games, but I guess, you know, characters from there are in there, so people are like, "Oh man, these characters are in here." So it
To be
seems
clear,
like
Breath of Fire was represented in Street Fighter 5 as well. Street Fighter 5 did it first. Just saying.
yeah, costumes, right? Yeah, it was like it was the alternate costume, right?
Yeah, for Falk. Yeah, Cat.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, that's you know, that's part of like, you know, Capcom, like you said, that's a good word to put it, like fan service, right? To the people that have played their games and their IPs over the years, to kind of have that reference in there, and not just Street Fighter. It's just like, oh, did you play this game? Do you know who this character is? Because like for me personally, like that's not really gonna hit any kind of special notes for me. But you know, for the people that have, you know, it's a nice little touch.
I mean, to be clear, like the World Tour actually doesn't. It feels more like Final Fight. It's a Final Fight like sequel than it is a Street Fighter sequel. Like, because it's in Metro City and it's covering like the Mad Gear lore and Hagar, and like I'm playing. No spoilers. But yeah, like there's a lot of Metro City references, and it feels more like Final Fight to me. And I just got to the other world map with Nashal. Spoilers, you go to Nashal. Everybody knew that already. But like, and that's very different. But even that still has like a Final Fight vibe to it. And you just run around, you beat up people on the street.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I'm
Yeah,
glad to hear that you're having a good experience with that. Like, yeah, again, like I didn't
I,
have any kind of special or attachment to it or even wanting to do it, but like I keep hearing like kind of positive things about it, and don't really have any expectations for it either. So I was like, I wasn't gonna go in and be like, oh man, this is trash. Like, it's kind of just
sure.
take it for what it is, and that's kind of how I've always looked at the story in the arcade modes and like fighting games anyway.
I definitely went in with that mindset of, man, this is going to be trash. Because again, it's an open world game. I hate open world games, and I'm
Yeah.
already bitter about story modes and fighting games. But um, two big points that I wanted to talk about with World Tour before we move on to the topic there is that um, we can talk about the lore, we can talk about the world building and stuff like that, but the fact that you can create your own character and then string your moves together, it seems like such a gimmick because you're like, that's just unbalanced for competitive play. I don't really care about that. But for somebody like me who loves engine shit and loves being able to like figure out combos within the engine, understand juggle points and stuff like that, being able to make your own combos and then do them like in battle in a role playing setting, like an RPG setting where you have stats and you have gear and stuff,
Yeah.
so cool, so cool. I did Ken Crouch Fierce, comboed into Chun Li heavy kick legs, juggle into Shoryuken. And it was so cool. I felt so badass for doing that because I'm like, I know the rules of the combo engine pretty well because I'm a competitive player, and here's a
Yeah.
way for me to like kind of flex that knowledge while also just like eating my cotton candy and enjoying the game. It's
Yeah.
just because there's no balance there. It's just for fun. It's about trying to make your character as broken as possible, and that's really really fun.
Yeah.
um, the other point I wanted to make is that everybody hates on the music on this game in this game, but the world tour mode, I understand why they went the musical direction they went in, because the music not just complements the story or the setting of the game, it elevates it. The
Oh.
music itself, like it gets me like grooving with it and feeling that feeling of being in Metro City, which is, I know that sounds corny as shit, but you gotta believe me on it, in that it's like I found myself like just like tapping my foot, or like when you go to the section, the world map where you have to like fly to different countries, and there's like a rap song that plays. It is like the most, that tone I talked about, that toxic optimism, that shonen style optimism. It is so apparent in the lyrics for the music. It's the music itself is also about not stressing you out, so it doesn't go too hard. It's like chill jazz at some points, or it's like bopping and hype, but it's never like so fast that you feel like you're like listening to a heavy metal track or anything like that. They really like leaned into this street vibe,
Hmm.
and it ties the whole package together so well. Like the music is great in this game for World Tour in particular, but I also believe that for the versus modes too.
Nice. That's awesome. Like, you mentioned earlier, like in the background, we have me going through the trials here for the game, and
Yeah,
yeah, and I mentioned earlier in terms of the troubles and the frustrations that I've had in terms of like learning the game and like kind of incorporating stuff into my game in pieces, right? And so I played, like I said, I mentioned I played Old Man River. I played Jeff the day yesterday, and then I
yeah,
played him actually twice that day because I played him later at night, I think. And those sets went a lot better. Like I felt a lot more comfortable in like what I was doing, and playing a lot more patiently. I mean, that's playing that's part of just playing better players, right? Like you go play online and play against these silver gold rank players, because like I did placement matches, I'm in gold, so I'm playing against people that are just wild. Is I mean, that's the best way for me to describe it. Like they're just out there. They're pressing, they're doing stuff that I feel is unorthodox, but at the same time, it's like if I'm getting hit by it, like they're doing something better than I am, right? They're making the better decisions. And um, yeah, it's just something like from playing Jeff, like I saw a noticeable improvement in how I was approaching the game, and kind of like just seeing a progression. And
sure.
that to me was huge, because I was just like, yeah, I still lost the majority of the games, but there was a huge progression that I saw. And then seeing myself doing the trials here, or even like I saw a Twitter video earlier, and I was like, oh, I can do this combo after sumo smash is a punish counter, and I was like, that's a thing? And I was like, "Oh yeah, that is a thing." So it's just like I'm gradually adding to my my repertoire here, even while we do this podcast and see these trials being done.
I I think that's actually really important. That's the spirit of the game in so many ways. It's that really good feeling about getting better at something,
Yeah,
about getting stronger, which is again the world tour theme. It's like you feel good. It's your endorphins after working out. And it's the same thing with like competitive play, where if you can get that sweet spot where you're not beating up on someone who's significantly lower level than you and you're just bullying them, and
yeah,
you're not so outclassed that you're not going to learn shit, and you just find that like slight balance where you can go back and forth with somebody.
yeah.
That is the magic of competitive fighting games, or just fighting games in general. And I think that six is doing everything that it can to create that situation, whether it's via skill-based matchmaking,
Hmm.
custom rooms so you can create it yourself, or like you can create that dynamic yourself and find people yourself if you want to, or battle hub where you can browse the masses and just run around and see if you can find someone of equal skill level.
Yeah.
Even in the player list in the battle hub, you can pull it up and be like, it'll actually like single out the characters with a little icon that says, hey, these people are your level, so
Oh
play them.
wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I was actually playing Battle Hub before we started this, and I just ran into I found somebody at a cab, and they were playing Ryu, I think, and yeah, it was just I had Sim set up as my character to play, and at first I was gonna change it because I was like I want to play Honda, but I was like you know what I'm just gonna go in and let's play Sim, and I lost the first two matches, and they were semi close, I think. And then I ended up winning 2 matches after that because again, like, I'm finding my bearings. I'm like, "Okay, this is how I should play." I was adapting to, like, what he was doing, and then I won 2 matches, and then he beat me in, the, like, whatever, the 5th match, and then he leaves the cabinet, and then I didn't even look at the chat until later. I had played somebody else, and then I saw a message in there that said, "Don't troll." And I was like, I think that was directed at me. And I'm like, do you really think that I'm trolling you right now? Like I'm like learning the game just as much as anybody else. So I was just like, I'll take it. Like, it's kind of positive reinforcement that the fact that you think I was trolling you when in fact I'm just, I'm still kind of getting my bearings here and trying to learn things. And I was
Yeah.
putting stuff together and you were just like, oh, he's probably sandbagging the first couple games. And I was like, no, dude, like you were legit beating me and now I'm legit beating you. Like, why would you think I'm trolling you?
I think that because everyone always tells me about how fighting games are hard to get into, and I get that from a mechanical standpoint, but that sweet spot that I mentioned where you're like pacing
Mhm.
off each other and recognizing your improvement, um, that means you have to lose.
Yeah.
And some people don't like losing.
Yeah, yeah, that's 100%, dude. Like,
That's
I can learn a lot more losing to you and Jeff in the 50 matches than I can beating some guy 20 games where I'm getting away doing bullshit the whole time that I should be getting punished for, or or he's not punishing me for in terms of uh like max damage.
yep.
That's the kind of situation where, like you said, people don't like to lose. And yeah, like I'm just trying to remind myself a lot about progression. And it made me just think about so for Christmas I was looking for stuff for my kids, right?
Sure.
And there were these things that I kept on seeing ads for Zox bands, which are kind of like these motivational wristbands, right? And they have
Okay.
little sayings on them. So I talked to my wife about, should we get these for the kids? You think they would like them? You think they're cool, or you think they're gonna be kind of corny or whatever? And she really liked the idea. And so we ended up getting them like kind of individual bands for the three of them, right? That we thought were for them. And then for all three of them, we got one that says progression, not perfection. And it's just a reminder, like in terms of like we're not expecting perfection from you as children or whatever. People are gonna make mistakes, but we want to see you progress and to learn and to be better. That kind of whole mentality of like 1% every day.
That is you are you sure you're an Asian parent?
Oh
That is
man.
very supportive. That's some good stuff.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
yeah,
mean, well, I technically am only a quarter Asian, but yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just one of those things. Like we've never been the type to kind of like force our kids to do anything that they didn't want to. Like even when it comes to that launch tourney, right? I was expecting my son to play, and like come the day of the tournament, I was like, "Hey, did you register?" No, I don't want to play. And like I pressed him probably a little bit more than I should have, But then I just got to the point I was like, well, if you don't want to play, I'm not going to force you to play, right?
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's not gonna if it's not gonna be a fun experience for you, or you're worried about whatever, like I'm not gonna force you into that situation.
I think that there's actually a very wide variety of people out there that are like that they don't actually want to play in a competitive tournament, and all we end up doing is just throwing tournaments at them and be like, be a part of our local scene, play in a tournament, come get beat by people.
Yeah.
And so I don't, it's nice to have another outlet to reach those people through the positive online experience that we've had with Six. Because now anybody can just hop in. Like even then, like I remember hearing somebody, they saw that 6-person voice chat when we were playing Team Battle, and they didn't want to hop in because they were intimidated. So there's still going to be a little bit of that, but like I get it, and that the tournament can be a kind of a turn off for people.
Yeah.
And I don't really know how to get around that. I think that
That's that's a whole nother thing. Like, I mean, we've talked about that, I think, back when we were talking to Rick, was it episode 2, about like tournaments and growing the scenes and stuff like that.
yeah,
And I've always kind of been of the mind that there's some people that are competitive and that are willing to kind of go through the trials by fire and getting your ass beat, and coming back and doing it some more the next week, right? And then there's some people that they just want to play the game, and they don't want to take it that seriously. They don't want to invest money traveling, or even locally, the $10-15 that we put into play in a local tournament. They don't want to put that in because they're just like, that's money I could have used for something else. Why am I going
yeah,
to go do it and just lose, right? And I've just always been at the mindset that there's people that are just going to be competitive and want to play in those kind of environments, and then there's other people that just it's not for them.
right. And I think that 5 catered to the former, but not necessarily the latter. And 6 is it's reminding us that that other group still exists, and they are all just as excited about this game as we are.
Yeah.
So it's just nice to have everybody kind of like together, for lack of a better phrase. Again, like in the context of a post-pandemic world too, like this is going to be amazing.
Yeah. Well, speaking of getting people together, have you even looked when you've played matches? Have you looked to see if somebody's using modern controls? Like, I noticed it in one match that I played, and I know a lot of people. There's been a lot of negativity around it and what you can do and this or that. But like, honestly, I'd noticed it, and I was just like, oh, he's using modern controls, and I was like, okay, well, whatever, big deal, right? I still got to play the guy. Like, have you noticed that, or even looked at that when you've been playing?
uh Not really. I haven't actually played anybody who uses modern controls yet.
Hmm.
I I honestly I haven't really played a lot of ranked, to put it bluntly. Like
Okay.
I played a little bit. I placed into diamond, and then I played a couple matches like for 2 nights, I think. And so I got to diamond 5 last night. So I'm probably gonna hit master pretty soon. It's just gonna about sticking the time into it. But the big thing is I've just been spending all my time playing World Tour. But because of that though, like modern controls, the one player that I played against at a high level with modern controls was in the open beta. He was playing Ryu, and it is difficult to play around that because again they can just super at any time, and you have to hold that, and obviously it's nerfed and whatnot. Like the big thing is they can't use all their normals, right?
Yeah.
But none of us know what normals are missing off the top of our heads. I don't know what normals Ryu is missing in modern controls, and so therefore I don't get to exploit that weakness or play around it even because I haven't done the matchup research yet.
Yeah.
I think that it's going to be a hard sell at high competitive level. I think that up until the launch, it's been about marketing, and it's been about showing that the game is accessible and saying that, hey, if you were interested in getting into this game and you wanted to play modern controls because it's easier, you can play competitively, and you don't want to tear that down and be like, no, modern controls are for babies. You don't. Like from a marketing standpoint, they don't want to push that narrative. They want people to feel like modern controls are the de facto standard.
Yeah,
So that
it's their
way,
gateway, right? It's their gateway into the game, and you know, you can do these combos too, or you can play this game too.
yep,
Yeah,
yep. And so, but the cold hard truth, in my opinion, is that um, we're not going to see it much at high level. I think we'll see it. We'll see it enough for it to make Twitter headlines or for people to cry about it.
yeah,
But I don't. And it'll require specialty practice to fight against those players, and so they're going to catch us. Everybody, they're going to catch people off guard initially. I think. I think we're going to see some modern controls at CEO.
yeah,
But I don't think that's going to be the norm by any means. That whole like existential crisis that people were having about what if this actually replaces my stick? I don't think so. I think a lot of this is after talking with Tanner. So if you guys get a chance, check out the absolute extras that I had with conversation. It was like a 2-hour conversation I had with Tanner, and he kind of changed my mind on this. Where it's like, it's there, but I'm not going to use it, and I don't think a lot of people are.
yeah,
But it's also a different use case for a lot of people where it's like they just want to have fun with the game. It's kind of like what you were saying about Hitbox at the beginning of the show. If they just want to have fun with the game and it's suboptimal, so what? The journey is the part that you're playing for, that whole getting stronger
yeah.
vibe, right? And so if the modern controls help you experience that feeling, then go for it.
Yeah, that and like, you know, you think about it, like the default settings in the game are all set to modern, right? Like you have to change everything and then, you know, change it to classic online if you want to play classic. So obviously that's the path that they were looking at, is right, getting a lot of these newcomers to play or people to use this control scheme. And then, you know, there's the hardcore of us, whatever's the 1-2%, if that are playing and are going to use classic. But um again, like, yeah, it goes back to like the fun part. If you're just playing with your friends, like who cares, you know, nobody's going to be, if you're not part of like the FGC and the hardcore group, like I'm not going to worry if this crouching normal's missing, right? I get to do this fireball and like, oh, you jumped at me and I just did an instant um Zangief Ultra or Super on you. Like
Yeah.
who cares, like we're just having a ball, right? And I don't know, it just makes me think about situations like that. Like at the end of the day, like, yeah, people just want to have fun.
If it helps people get to that, like that golden sweet spot of like that 1 versus 1, I'm adapting to you and then you adapted to me and then I adapted to your adaptation, and we just keep cycling and growing off
Yeah,
each other, right? If modern controls lets people get to that phase of their fighting game style quicker, then like
yeah,
like it's done its job.
yeah, yeah. That's a great point, because like if you think about it, like if I was to play somebody that just says, "Hey, I want to play Street Fighter with you," okay, like I basically got a sandbag, right? I can't do the things I normally do playing, you know, me playing versus you, right? Like where you understand at a higher level this game. Like that person's probably, you know, going to use modern controls. They're going to be doing moves that I probably wouldn't have expected them normally to do. But at the same time, it's like, do I want to play with them or not? Right? Or do I want them to have a good time?
Yeah.
Right? You know, because I might have a good time. Or I mean, I might not have a good time just beating their ass because I know that they're not on my level. But you know, at the end of the day, like you said, like if you can get to that point to where you guys are playing and adapting to each other, like yeah, that's a great feeling when you see people kind of going back and forth. Um, and then that was the other thing I was thinking of, was you talked about the not knowing which normals people don't have.
Yeah.
And man, you add that onto everything else that we're all, you know, that we've been talking about in terms of resource management and, you know, optimal combos and stuff like that. Like people are going to need notes for that kind of stuff if they're going to take it seriously. If somebody's going to go into competitive play with that, because you're going to have to know which normals are not there. So whoever made that spreadsheet out there that lists all the normals that are missing, like you're going to need that on standby, because you're going to be like, okay, well, he doesn't have his crouch forward. I can, you know, move into this range better or something like that.
I did find a list of all the characters that are like all the normals that each character is missing in modern, but
Yeah.
it's in Japanese. And so I use the translate tweet button on Twitter, and you know, I there are some characters that are missing their metatarsal kick. That's crouching medium kick, actually. I had Fred translate it for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But yeah, this is a hell of a game. It's a hell of a game. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in both the short term future with the wild tournaments that are going to be happening. CEO is going to be nuts. Evo is going to be a bloodbath. I'm looking forward to what happens to our locals. I kind of want to just put this out there to anybody that's listening that there is no plans for anybody to run locals right now, and so the floor is yours if you wish. And there's lots of people I think that are willing to help, but I think they're looking for that one person to kind of unite around, and I'm hoping that someone steps up. Otherwise, we're going to be online for a while.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, especially locally. Like, I know I've talked about potentially doing something, but I mean, I'm not even close to getting anything off the ground. I'm more than willing to kind of help people if they want to ask about running brackets or setups or things of that nature. Like, if you want to pick my brain about, what would you do in this situation, or what should I be looking for? Like, I'm always open to that kind of conversation. If somebody wants to reach out and be like, hey, I want to do this. What do you think I should do? Prize pool money, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And the same thing is, if you have questions and stuff and you come ask me, I'm just going to send you to Benny. That's a very polite way of saying, I don't run events anymore. Please stop asking me. Please stop asking me.
Oh, man. I guess the other thing, the one last thing about launch, I actually just thought about this too, is like, I don't know, I think I use the word humbling a lot. And I guess the launch for me, like, I mean, I've seen it from other people too. It's kind of been humbling, and it's like, losing a lot more than I guess I'm accustomed to or that I'm used to. Because like I did, that happened a lot at the launch of Street Fighter V for me. Because I was playing Dalsim, right? Like, I didn't know how to play Dalsim. Like, I was barely incorporating teleports like within the first couple of weeks. Like, I was doing normal jumps with Dalsim, and people, and I'm like looking at it and I was like, nobody ever does a freaking normal forward jump and then a stand or air heavy with Dalsim. Like, that's not a thing. Like, you would do, instant teleport and be in their face right away.
Yeah.
And so that was a learning curve for me. And I've basically kind of had to humble myself starting this game, and being in gold, and just, I don't know, I feel like it, in a way, it's almost like the start of Street Fighter 4. Like, I've talked about this many times. Like, I went to that first tournament, I did well, and it was part of like people just didn't know who I was. And then I got humbled real hard going to like Ranbats and stuff. Then I had to kind of level up from there and learn and pick up stuff, add stuff to my game. And eventually I got to the point to where I was like a solid B tier player in my scene, right? Mid high tier player is how to put it, right? Even in Arizona, it was the same situation. I came here and did well, and then I got humbled, and it was like, okay, now I really got to learn, and I got to progress. And that's kind of how I see myself with the launch of this game. Is I'm learning, even though the characters are familiars in terms of their looks and the general moves that they have, like, I'm basically starting at the beginning in terms of like learning how this character works in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got to continue to add little things to my game here and there and not let myself get overwhelmed. And as long as I can do that, and as long as I'm still having fun, then that's all that's really going to matter to me in the end.
Be willing to burn out.
Yeah.
That's the only way you're going to explore your options. Yeah. Truly. I can get behind that. I think that this game has been humbling for me in a lot of ways too. I think that, well, for one, with the open beta, right? Like, it was an interesting time within the open beta where I mainly played Ken, and when launch happened, suddenly there's like 9 matchups that are like really brand new, and Honda's just gonna headbutt, JP's just gonna throw his projectiles out, and you got to learn how to deal with it. And if it's your first time seeing it, you're gonna lose. And so for me, it was just about being like, it's okay to lose a 2 out of 3 set. It's okay to lose a tournament match to this character that I couldn't possibly have known to prepare for because the game just came out. Yeah. And it's about giving yourself that grace for losing. And more importantly, it's about taking that energy, turning it into the grace that you gave yourself for losing, and not putting it on the game. Because it's really easy to just be like, I lost because this game sucks.
Yeah.
And I think that's happening now. That happened with Drive Impact during the betas. It happened with Street Fighter 5. It happened with 4. 4 was, remember when 4 wasn't good enough because it wasn't Third Strike?
Yeah. Yep.
It's going to keep happening, and it's about how you contextualize your losses. How do you pick yourself back up after the losses? Or are you going to sit on the ground and cry like a baby that the game sucks when you're on the ground? I don't know. Game
Yeah.
doesn't
I don't know.
suck.
I also think of like kind of like the progression from like Street Fighter 4 launch to the launch of Super, because when Super came out, like at that point I was heavily my game had improved a lot, right? And um, it was one of my most fun moments was going to the play and trade for the pre-order launch that we had in Alaska, and them having stations set up, and I did like a 25-26 game win streak that night, and nobody could beat me, and I was just like, yeah, but I've been playing this game for the last whatever, is it a year and a half before Super came out or something like that. So I was just like, and seeing that progression, like I had to put myself in perspective and be like, you know what? I'm not there. Like I've been playing Street Fighter 4, the last 2 months, like on 2-3 months on Hitbox. And while I'm learning a new control method, I know that game and I know what I'm capable of in that game. And there were still people beating my ass in that game too, but still, like my progression in that game is a whole different thing compared to this.
Yeah, I like as far as like starting from the top versus starting from the bottom.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I think that to me the big difference is that who I practice with has changed so drastically because of the online capabilities of this game, and that is just like that's a brand new experience. No competitive game that I've played has had that, except for maybe late Street Fighter 5, which is how I knew to network with some folks and make relationships with people out of state. But I don't think that. I don't know. Actually, that happened pretty regularly in Arizona. Now I think about it, like you guys were doing that for long before I did anything like that. So, but to me at least, like the fact that we can do all this stuff online makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, out of 10, what would you give Street Fighter 6, Benny?
Right out of the launch, honestly, I'd give it a solid 9. I
Right?
mean, it's always room for improvement, right? To me, like the only perfect video game in the world is Tetris.
Would you give Street Fighter 6 one of those wristbands you got your kids?
I'd have to think of which one to do, because like my wife ended up getting, well, the way we did it too also is we chose one for each other, and then we chose one for ourselves.
Oh,
And the one that I chose for myself was focus on the positive, and then the one she gave me was persistence.
stick with it.
So yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, I wear those around work or whatever. Yeah, it's great because I see my kids wear them all the time too. So I'm just like, part of me was like that. Are they gonna find this corny kind of thing? But they thought it was really cool and kind of an awesome gift. So I was like, that validation was pretty awesome.
That's, I think, the validation is how I think people get better at this game. It's about how you measure your progress. It's not necessarily the win or loss screen. It's about kind of like what you've done on this show, like while watching your clips, being like, hey, I have gotten better. And it's not necessarily quantifiable, but you can feel like you feel more comfortable playing the character, you feel more comfortable moving, you land that one big ass combo that you've been practicing for forever. Like take the micro goals,
Exactly. Like, yeah, I mean, early in the morning yesterday or early in the afternoon, I lost to Jeff, I don't know, 5 out of the 30 matches or something. I think at night it was like, instead of 5 games, I think I won close to 10, maybe 11. So it's like, yeah, there's definitely progression even in the numbers there. But even in the games that I lost, like, again, like I had seen myself like, hey, I'm doing better in these situations. I know what to do. I know how to handle this better than I did initially. So,
do you think that
progress.
do you think that has anything to do with your age? Like you've kind of grown a little bit more mature since 15 years ago.
What do you mean in terms of like just being able to accept it, or
Yeah, like your life experience. You're not blinded by rage as much anymore, right?
yeah. No, I mean, yeah. Honestly, like when I was playing Street Fighter 4, like I was actually raging more playing that than I do in this. Like, there's still moments where I'm just like, why? Like, how do you even deal with this shit? Like, that kind of stuff. Like when I was playing Marissa and getting frustrated, but it was like I chalked it up to kind of like new stuff, and I was like, I'll find my way around this.
Nice.
Whereas when I was playing Street Fighter 4 for the last 2 months, like if I get hit by something, I'd be like, you would do that stupid shit, and so I mean, I don't think it's necessarily age. It's more kind of just realistic expectations for like where I'm at in the game. Like
Got
maybe
it.
5 years from now, I'll probably be full of rage as people pull off stuff that I saw at launch, and I'm just like, people are still doing this. Like what?
That's a good point too. Is that it's an ongoing battle where like the more you get invested in the game, the harder you fall when you lose.
Yeah, when somebody pulls off stuff like like I said, I've been playing Jeff, and like I'm getting hit by empty jump lows and all kinds of stuff that I know is part of the meta and part of the game, and it's just like, man, I'm getting hit by everything, and
Yep.
but yeah, there's not really any rage at this point. Maybe eventually, but not at this point. No, not really at all.
I would also give it a 9 out of 10. I was gonna give it something around like a 7 or an 8, because the monetization stuff kind of bummed me out a lot. But then World Tour, and I didn't care about World Tour, so I wanted to just grade it from that perspective. But no, the World Tour is badass. I still like the game. Like the new characters are really cool. It took me a little while to warm up to them, but the game feels like a complete package, and the experience has been not like any game I've ever played, ever. Like this could potentially be my favorite video game, and that it's had such a huge impact on my life. It's a lot of fucking fun, and it made
Yeah.
me like open world games. What?
That's a discussion for another time.
Yep. Yep. Cool. Any shout outs on the way out here, Benny?
No, not really. I mean, just Capcom for doing their thing, man. Like, I'm pretty happy to see people for the most part. I think there is a Twitter account that I've been seeing a lot of screenshots for in terms of like the whole scrub quotes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Part of me like I enjoy looking at some of that stuff because I'm just like, you're silly. But then like I saw one where it was almost kind of depressing in a way because just to see that somebody had this mentality that they would be like, you can only be good at this if you practice, or I don't know, I forgot like the exact terminology. Like I'd have to go look it up. It kind of makes me want to, but yeah, I don't know. It's just they were kind of down on themselves about like learning the game and that they'll never get better, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how else do you expect to get better than to actually like go through the trials and the tribulations of losing and learning, and execution improvement and all that stuff. Like nobody, there's always natural talent, right? And there's always going to be people that pick up these games faster than others. And I think that's probably been the most humbling thing to me, is just the fact that I'm like, you know what, I am a pretty slow learner when it comes to this kind of stuff. So, and I'm not the best execution guy, so I gotta kind of just live with that, and just I don't know, just know that I'm improving.
Yeah. I think that um, it's it's always slow to learn if you're it like if it's something new, it's always slow to learn by default. But it's hard to learn something completely brand new. But it's also, if your mind is occupied by something else, like about how the game's unfair or something, which or like
Yeah.
blinded by rage, like a lot of these scrub quotes are,
Yeah.
it's got to be a hard thing. And I'm not saying like get good scrub. That's not the takeaway here. But it's more
Yeah.
like the most successful players I've seen, they have good attitudes.
Yeah.
And if you it's one thing to clown on some of the negativity, but it's another
Yeah.
thing to be like, hey, like if you understand where it's coming from, and I don't know, it just gets in the way. That's all it is.
Yeah.
The salt just gets in the way. And maybe like it's funny for us to just point at it and laugh and be like, oh, look at the scrub quote on the internet. But if someone's actually feeling that way, then they weren't going to play the game anyway. There's only so much you can do about someone's bad attitude.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, GG's. Here's to many more podcasts and many more Street Fighters. Street Fighter 7, I think, is coming out probably in a couple years. So I guess we'll see. I'm just kidding. We're going to be doing a lot of Street Fighter 6 content. I think I said content on our podcast, and now I feel slimy. I think I'm going to start streaming again this week or something. So we'll see if you guys want to see some Chun action. But have a good night. You can find us at twitch.tv/Spiral Series, youtube.com/Spiral Series, and on Spotify under Absolute Guard. We also have a Street Fighter 6 club that we just formed. It's, if you search for Absolute Guard, one word, it's got our logo on it. It's really cool, and I'm proud of it. Please apply. There's 100 spots, and I think only half of them are filled right now. And I need to go and open it up and accept some applications after this show. So please apply. And enjoy the game. I hope everyone enjoys it. Have fun. See ya.